शान अका हुवल अबतर अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल अज़ीम व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद समिअल्लाहु लिमन हमिदा अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद अल्लाहु अकबर अस्तगफिरुल्लाह रब्बी व अतूबु इलैह अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अल्लाहु अकबर बिहौलिल्लाहि व कुव्वतिही अक़ूमु व अक़ऊद बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर्रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तकीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़दूबि अलैहिम वलद्दाल्लीन बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम क़ुल हुवल्लाहु अहद अल्लाहुस समद लम यलिद वलम यूलद वलम यकुल लहू कुफुवन अहद कज़ालिकल्लाहु रब्बी कज़ालिकल्लाहु रब्बी कज़ालिकल्लाहु रब्बी अल्लाहु अकबर अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद रब्बना गफ़िर ली व लिवालिदैया व लिलमुमिनीना यौमा यक़ूमुल हिसाब रब्बिरहमहुमा कमा रब्बयानी सग़ीरा रब्बना आतिना फिद दुनिया हसनतन व फिल आखिरति हसनतन व क़िना अज़ाबन्नार अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल अज़ीम व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद समिअल्लाहु लिमन हमिदा अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद अल्लाहु अकबर अस्तगफिरुल्लाह रब्बी व अतूबु इलैह अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद अल्लाहु अकबर अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाह वहदहु ला शरीका लह व अशहदु अन्न मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद व तक़ब्बल शफ़ाअतहु वरफ़अ दरजतहु बिहौलिल्लाहि अक़ूमु व अक़ऊद अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल अज़ीम व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद समिअल्लाहु लिमन हमिदा अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद अल्लाहु अकबर अस्तगफिरुल्लाह रब्बी व अतूबु इलैह अल्लाहु अकबर सुब्हान रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآله محمد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك وعزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد صلى الله عليه وآله السلام اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم كل وليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طاعة وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد شكرا 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 لله شكرا لله سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله ووصي رسول الله وخليفته بلا فاصل صلوات الله وسلامه عليه أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وإمام المتقين عليا ولي الله ووصي رسول الله وخليفته بلا فاصل صلوات الله وسلامه عليه حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम इन्ना अअतैनाकल कौसर फसल्लि लिरब्बिक वन्हर इन्ना शानिअका हुवल अबतर। अल्लाहु अकबर। सुब्हाना रब्बियल अज़ीम व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। समिअल्लाहु लिमन हमिदह। अल्लाहु अकबर। सुब्हाना रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहु अकबर। अस्तगफिरुल्लाह रब्बी व अतूबु इलैह। अल्लाहु अकबर। सुब्हाना रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहु अकबर। बिहौलिल्लाहि व कुव्वतिही अक़ूमु व अक़ऊदु। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम अल्हम्दुलिल्लाहि रब्बिल आलमीन अर्रहमानिर्रहीम मालिकि यौमिद्दीन इय्याका नअबुदु व इय्याका नस्तईन इहदिनस सिरातल मुस्तक़ीम सिरातल लज़ीना अनअमता अलैहिम गैरिल मग़्दूबि अलैहिम वलद्दाल्लीन। बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम क़ुल हुवल्लाहु अहद अल्लाहुस समद लम यलिद वलम यूलद वलम यकुल लहू कुफुवन अहद। कज़ालिकल्लाहु रब्बी। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। रब्बना गफ़िर ली व लिवालिदैया व लिलमुमिनीना यौम यक़ूमुल हिसाब। रब्बिरहमहुमा कमा रब्बयानी सग़ीरा। रब्बना आतिना फ़िद दुनिया हसनतन व फ़िल आख़िरति हसनतन व क़िना अज़ाबन नार। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहु अकबर। सुब्हाना रब्बियल अज़ीम व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। समिअल्लाहु लिमन हमिदह। अल्लाहु अकबर। सुब्हाना रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहु अकबर। अस्तगफिरुल्लाह रब्बी व अतूबु इलैह। अल्लाहु अकबर। सुब्हाना रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहु अकबर। अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह अशहदु अल्ला इलाहा इल्लल्लाहु वहदहु ला शरीका लह व अशहदु अन्ना मुहम्मदन अब्दुहु व रसूलुहु। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद व तक़ब्बल शफ़ाअतहु वरफ़अ दरजतहु बिहौलिल्लाहि व क़ुव्वतिही। अल्लाहु अकबर। सुब्हाना रब्बियल अज़ीम व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। समिअल्लाहु लिमन हमिदह। अल्लाहु अकबर। सुब्हाना रब्बियल आला व बिहम्दिही अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद। अल्लाहु अकबर। अस्तगफिरुल्लाह रब्बी व अतूबु इलैह। अल्लाहु अकबर। سبحان ربي العالى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بحول الله سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي العالى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه الله أكبر سبحان ربي العالى وبحمده اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم واحشرنا معهم الله أكبر الحمد لله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وتقبل شفاعته وارفع درجته السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إنا أعطيناك الكوثر فصل لربك وانحر إنا شانئك هو الأبتر الله أكبر سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي وبحمده الله أكبر سبحان ربي وبحمده الله أكبر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر अस्सलामु अलैका या रसूल अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या हबीब अल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या अमीरुल मोमिनीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या फ़ातिमत ज़हरा सय्यदत निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलामु अलैका या खदीजतल कुबरा, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा मुहम्मद हसन अल मुज्तबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या अबा अब्दिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैका या इब्न रसूलिल्लाह, अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अलल हुसैन व अला अली इब्न अल हुसैन व अला औलादिल हुसैन व अला अस्हाबिल हुसैन। अस्सलामु अलैका या अबल फ़ज़्ल अब्बास, अस्सलामु अला अली इब्न अल हुसैन, अस्सलामु अला मुहम्मद इब्न अली, अस्सलामु अला जाफ़र इब्न मुहम्मद, अस्सलामु अला मूसा इब्न जाफ़र, अस्सलामु अलैका या गरीबल गुरबा, अस्सलामु अलैका या मुईन अद्दुअफ़ा वल फ़ुक़रा, अस्सलामु अलैका या सुल्तान अल अरब वल अजम, या अली इब्न मूसा रिज़ा व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अला मुहम्मद इब्न अली, अस्सलामु अला अली इब्न मुहम्मद, अस्सलामु अला हसन इब्न अली, अस्सलामु अलैका या मौलाना या साहिबल अस्रि वज़ ज़मान, अल अमान अल अमान अल अमान। अस्सलामु अलैका या खलीफतुर रहमान, अस्सलामु अलैका या शरीकल कुरआन, अस्सलामु अलैका या मज़हरल ईमान, अस्सलामु अलैका इमामल इंस वल जान, अज्जलल्लाहु तआला फ़रजक व सहलल्लाहु तआला मखरजक व ज़हूरक। अस्सलामु अलैकुम व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि
पर मोहम्मद वाल मोहम्मद सलवात। अब्बास तेरा हक है, ज़माना तुझे रोए। अब्बास तेरा हक है, ज़माना तुझे रोए। जब शाम ओ सहर फातिमा ज़हरा तुझे रोए। अब्बास तेरा हक है, ज़माना तुझे रोए। दुर्रे लिए ये पहरे पे सितमगार खड़ा है। दुर्रे लिए ये पहरे पे सितमगार खड़ा है। कैसे तेरे लाशे पे सकीना तुझे रोए। अब्बास तेरा हक है, ज़माना तुझे रोए। जिस वक्त उठाया ना गया लाशा जवां का, जिस वक्त उठाया ना गया लाशा जवां का, शह उस घड़ी अकबर से ज़्यादा तुझे रोए। अब्बास तेरा हक है, ज़माना तुझे रोए। ज़ैनब ने कहा शाम में गरीबा में गाजी। ज़ैनब ने कहा शाम में गरीबा में गाजी। बेपर्दा मुझे देख के बाबा तुझे रोए। अब्बास तेरा हक है, ज़माना तुझे रोए। बिन हाथ के किस तरह तू घोड़े से घिरा था, बिन हाथ के किस तरह तू घोड़े से घिरा था। ये सुन के बहुत अहले मदीना तुझे रोए। अब्बास तेरा हक है, ज़माना तुझे रोए। मशकीज़ा कहीं जिसमें कहीं हाथ कहीं है। मशकीज़ा कहीं जिसमें कहीं हाथ कहीं है। जा जा के कहाँ फ़ातिमा ज़हरा तुझे रोए। अब्बास तेरा हक़ है ज़माना तुझे रोए। अरमान सकीना का था जितना तुझे रोती। अरमान सकीना का था जितना तुझे रोती। सजाद तेरी कब्र पे उतना तुझे रोए। अब्बास तेरा हक़ है ज़माना तुझे रोए। पर मोहम्मद वाल मोहम्मद सल्लल्लाहु।
कहती ये माँ खूब बड़ी मैयत से लिपट कर, हाय हाय अली अकबर, हाय हाय अली अकबर। कहती थी ये माँ खूब भरी मैयत से लिपट कर, हाय हाय अली अकबर, हाय हाय अली अकबर। अरमान तपे है नाऊंगी पोशाक शहानी, अफसोस के रासाई न तुझ को ये जवानी। कैसा था मुकद्दर, हाय हाय अली अकबर। 18 बरस पाल के परवान चढ़ाया, और गेसुओं वाला मेरा खून में नहाया। कुर्बान हो मादर, हाय हाय अली अकबर। इतना तो जरा ठहरो तुम्हें दूल्हा बना लूं, बस एक झलक सैर की सुगरा को दिखा लूं। चैन थी ख्वाहर है अली अकबर अरमान तपे है नाऊंगी पोशाक शहानी अफसोस के रासाई न तुझ को ये जवानी अब कैसा था मुकद्दर है अली अकबर है अली अकबर 18 बरस पाल के परवान चढ़ाया और गेसुओं वाला है मेरा खून में नहाया कुर्बान हो मादर है अली अकबर सलावत
सलवात मुझे मतलूब होगा जाम लेना जब भी कौसर का सलाम ऐसा पढ़ूंगा दिल भराएगा पैगंबर सलाम ऐसा पढ़ूंगा दिल भराएगा पैगंबर ज़मीन करबला क्या पूछना तेरे मुक़द्दर का है तुझ में आज तक महफूज सरमाया पैगंबर है तुझ में आज तक महफूज सरमाया पैगंबर का मुझे रन में जब शय की तरफ से हुरे दीदार आया किस बशाहत से उड़ता हुआ रहवार आया गुल हुआ सैयदे मजलूम का गम खार आया जाने सारे खलफ हैदर करार आया जाने सारे खलक हैदर करार आया तत्खा नूर सरारा नजर आता है जलवाए खुदरत अल्लाह नजर आता है जलवाए खुदरत अल्लाह नजर आता है ये सुकन सुन के पुकारा पिसरे सा शहीद हाँ तरफदार शाहिदी पे चले नेज़ोती लेके हरबों को बड़ा फौज कानबू कसीर फातिहा पढ़ के जवान मर्द ने खींची शमशीर फातिहा पढ़ के जवान मर्द ने खींची शमशीर और का मुँह सुर्ख हुआ फौज सितम जर्द हुई शोलाए तेग से बिजली की चमक गर्द हुई शोलाए तेग से बिजली की चमक गर्द हुई बढ़ के फरमाते थे अब्बास इज्जत जा बरक अल्लाह के देते थे सदा दिल बरे शाह कहते थे इब्ने हसन वाहुर गाजी शाह हर ज़र्ब पे फरमाते थे माशाअल्लाह, अपनी जान बाजी का गाजी जो सिला पाता था, मुस्कुराता हुआ तस्लीम
को झुक जाता था,
मुस्कुराता हुआ तस्लीम
को झुक जाता था।
है झुकने में लईनों ने जो फुर्सत पाई, सामना छोड़ के 100 फौज अखीफ से आई, लेके खून रेज़ इधर और उधर तन्हाई, भाग घोड़े की फिराते थे के पर्ची खाई, आ गया मौत के पंजे में ना कुछ देर लगी, फर्क पर गुर्ज लगा, फर्क पर गुर्ज लगा, सीना गुरबाल हुआ, तीर चले आदा के, रख दिया शेर ने खरबूज पर सर नौड़ा के, अली अकबर ने ये हजरत से कहा चिल्ला के, गर हो इरशाद तो मेहमान को बचा लूं जाके, खिदमते हजरत जहराओ अली गिरता है खाक पर, आओ खाक पर अब वो सैयद अज़ली गिरता है, खाक पर अब वो सैयद अज़ली गिरता है। शाह रोने लगे ये सुनते ही मैं माँ की खबर, हो गए आंसुओं से रेश मुबारक सबतर, अकबर से कहा कि तुम अभी ठहरो दिलबर, हुर की इमदाद को हम जाएंगे ऐ नूरे नज़र, किस इस वक्त कहूँ मैं जो खलक मुझ पर है, लाश उठाऊंगा के मेहमान का हक मुझ पर है, लाश उठाऊंगा के मेहमान का हक मुझ पर है।
Assalamu alaikum. Let's begin with a loud salawat. So, brothers and sisters, tonight is third Muharram. Tonight is the 4th lecture of Syed Ali Abbas Razawi, the topic being returned to the origin. I don't want to delay further. I want to begin immediately, but before that, I ask everyone, please take a few steps forward. Last night, we had a lot of people sitting outside the hall because it was too dark to come inside. So please, if you could please take a few steps forward. Once again, every night, the Majlis will start at 8:15. And I ask everyone to please wear your mask at all times. And one last announcement is anyone who would like a free COVID test, it is outside. For every COVID test that is done, a donation will go to IEC, inshallah. And with that, I'd like to begin and request a loud salawat and ask the Maulana to begin reciting the Majlis.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashraf al-anbiya'i wal-mursaleen. Sayyidina wa Maulana Abil Qasimi Muhammad.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Wa ala ali baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin al-madhlumin. الذين أذهب الله عنهم ورجسا وطهرهم تطهيرا.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
أما بعد قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. A series of discussions have gone into its third night. It's sad that these nights are slowly going. Already what seems to have started is now 3 nights in. This is the haqiqah of life. Life is such that it leaves us, slowly but surely. When you're younger, a day seems very long. As you grow older, you find time begins to go like quicksand. If you look at Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, similarly to Nabi Ibrahim, when the angel came to him and said, "It's time for you to go," having lived over 1,000 years, when he asked how life was, he said it's like moving from one place into a shade. Your entire life is like that. It's transient. It's going. And eventually a time is going to come. You've seen already in the last year or 2 years how many people have died, how many people have left us. Perhaps it may not be the case too much in North America or Scotland, but at least in England, in London, I remember a time where there were 4 janazas a day which were coming in. Those people who were given ghusl were tired. They were crying. They couldn't take it. There's certain centres in London today that there's only 1 elder left. The entire back row is gone. That tells you how transient life is. This is life.
Brothers and sisters, my humble apology. Accidentally, last night's Majlis was played, so we're just correcting that, and the Majlis will begin shortly. Please recite 3 loud salawats.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم. Our series of discussions have gone into its 4th night. As these nights begin to leave us, build inside of yourself a connection that illuminates the heart, The purpose of these 10 nights are that there are 10 sections of Iman, belief. And as each day begins to go, your heart should be inclining towards the wilayah of the Prophet and his family. Know something, there is no other pathway to perfection but that of the Prophet and his family. There are pathways, there are maratib, stages, but the absolute stage of perfection that completes the entire cycle of the names, that brings together to a level of maqam tam, the only thing there is that of the wilayah of Ahlul Bayt. Why? As we said yesterday. Now when I say Ahlul Bayt in the absolute sense is the Prophet and his family. Ahlul Bayt is not separate from the Prophet and his family. Ahlul Bayt is one unit. Where do we see this unit? Look, you've heard the story before, but hear it from me as well. Story goes like this. A number of days ago, before the beginning of Muharram, there's an event that you all come and celebrate. And that is the final Eid that you have. And that's known as Mubahila. In that Eid, what do you have? You have a group that goes from Yemen and comes to Medina with two purposes. Either convert them or then say to them that we're not going to make peace, effectively. In the process of all of that, a dialogue breaks out. From that dialogue, it reaches a dead end. When it reaches a dead end, hukum of Allah comes. There's no rational method, this way or that way. Final method is this, Mubahila. In the process of Mubahila, the Najranis go back to their three Khalifas. So there were three leaders basically, according to the Tafasir. They go back to three of those leaders and they ask them. They say to them, look, should we go and do Mubahila with this Muhammad? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Up to that, you know. After that, they reply something, or at least the head from the three leaders, the main leader replies something. He says, look, do Mubahila with them on the condition that if he brings his friends and everyone else, then do Mubahila with him. But if he brings a distinct group of people, then don't do Mubahila with him. Then you know that he's on the truth. What happens? Hukum comes down. Wa abna'ana wa abna'akum. You bring 3 sons or more. Wa nisa'ana wa nisa'akum. You bring 3 women or more. Wa anfusana wa anfusakum. You bring your souls, I'll bring, or we bring our souls. What happened? In all of that, hukum of the Quran is there. But who does the Prophet bring? There is no 3 or 3 or 3. Who does the Prophet bring? The Prophet brings his sons, but there are only 2. That indicates that if there was anybody else at that maqam, he would have bought it. Who does he bring as women? When the discussion and the debate takes place, are the wives of the Prophet part of Ahlul Bayt? Had they been part of Ahlul Bayt, Rasulullah would have bought them in Nisa'ana wa Nisa'akum. Who does he bring? Here the Quran says plural, 3 or more. Who does he bring? 1. When it comes to his nafs, nafsullah, nafs of the Prophet, who does he bring? 1. You know up to there. So now listen forward and see. A dialogue then takes place. So these Najranis go back to their Khalifa, the 3 Khalifas who were there. 3 leaders. Ask them the question. Says, what should we do? Who has Muhammad bought? He's bought 2 of his grandsons. He's bought his daughter. And he's bought his nafs, which is his son-in-law. Look at their istidlal. Forget ours. Look at this. Look at the way they have ma'rifah more than some of our brothers have ma'rifah. What do they reply? He says, Muhammad has bought every one of his family, from the youngest to the oldest. That means that he believes in his message. Because he knows that if he was to lie, the entire nasl of prophecy would be finished forever. Now remember, at this time, the Prophet outwardly, according to the Najranis, hadn't selected a leader. But it is the Abrahamic tradition from the time of Abraham that every prophet picks a family member. It is either his brother or his cousin or his son. So in this way, who does the Prophet bring? His cousin, his brother, his son. So according to them, What the Prophet was saying, that we are from the branch of Ibrahim, for them this is the succession to Muhammad. So at that stage, he then turns around and says, well listen, if Muhammad has brought only these people, therefore if they curse, he has yaqeen that they're going to win. Don't do mubahala with them. This is the belief and this is the iman of a person who's not a Muslim. Now let me ask you a question. Muslims, where have you gone wrong? Shall I put it another way? Those 5 people who are coming, they were Islam. If there was anything more superior than them, the Prophet would have brought them. This isn't belittling anybody else. Everybody has different maqamat. Everybody has different maqamat. Hadith-e-Qisa takes place. We hold Sayyidah Zainab in the greatest of light. She was alive, but she wasn't under the Qisa. Right? At least physically. Some people say she was born. Others have said she may have been in the womb. But let's take it a step further. Take it a step further and see. In Mubahila, Sayyidah Zainab doesn't come. Let's say she was in the womb. So let's say she was spiritually under the Qisa. But let's say now, for argument's sake, 10 AH now comes. Sayyidah Zainab was there, Kulthum was there, Rasulullah didn't bring them. Why not? They're holy. They look for us. They have isma, right? Minor isma. If not isma to kubra, but the fact is that they don't commit a sin according to us, according to our belief. However, he doesn't bring them. Why? Because the bunyad of Islam are just these 5. Just these 5. Where the succession of imamat comes is because of 2 sharts. One, Karbala, and one, Ayay Nur. Nurun ala Nur. 9 imams from the Nasl of Hussein. So now let me come back and tell you something. The entire bunyad of Islam, therefore, rests on the Prophet and his family. Your maqam, your enlightenment of the heart, your movement rests on your reflection upon them, your focus upon them. Let me take it in another direction. Look, what did we conclude on yesterday? We said there is an importance in reading the Quran, which we as Muslims negate. We memorize it, we read it like a parrot, but we don't analyze it. However, you all know that Quran is such, it can be manipulated. Why? Quran is mujmal, is abstract. The purpose of it, because it's a book until the end of time, so it's multi-layered. You could say there are 4 different distinct levels of the Quran, where the Amma understand one thing, and the Khas understand one thing, and the Awliya understand one thing, and the Anbiya understand one thing. That's the beauty of the Quran. Effectively, every single human who reads the Quran understands it in their own way. But if 1.9 billion Muslims understood it in a different way, there'd be anarchy. So what do? And there is anarchy. You go back to the Ahlul Bayt. So now come and see. The purpose of the Quran, Allah. The purpose of prophecy, Allah. The purpose of imamah, the entire purpose of guidance is that they take you by the hand and take you to Allah. So there's 2 things that you have that nobody else has. Look into it and see. 1 is the du'as of the Imam. 2 is the ziyarat of the Imam. Why is that? Because the du'a of the Imam teaches you how to supplicate to Allah, how to talk to Allah. Go today to Alam Islam and see. There is hardly any literature that can teach you how to talk to Allah, to explain to you what Tawheed is. How is your relationship? The Quran doesn't teach you a relationship development. It doesn't show you how 2 people have a conversation. The Prophet of God, his du'as are very limited. Go into Sunni corpus and see. Only a handful of du'a. 2% of what Shia literature is. Today, when you look at Sufi literature, the vast majority of it is found in the Shia books. They've taken it almost from the Imam. In fact, they have taken it from. Sanad goes back to one Imam or the other. Majority goes to the 8th Imam, otherwise the 6th Imam, and so forth. So what are you seeing here? The way to talk to Allah is found in dua. This is why we said yesterday, there are a number of du'as which are important. But now that you've understood how to connect with your God and talk to your God, remember there's another maqam as well. Man mata wa lam ya'rif, Imam az-zamanihi, mata mitatin jahiliyyah. Why is it important to understand the Imam of your time? Because your Imam is Nurullah on earth. Let me put it another way. Go and see. When you go to the shrine of Amir al-Mu'mineen and you stand there reciting Ziyarat Aminullah, which is the most recommended ziyarah to recite there, or when you go to any shrine, Amin Allah, what do you say? Assalamu alayka. For every imam you're saying this, but specifically for Amir al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alayka, ya Nurullah fi dhulamat al-ard. Salam on you, basically, which? Nurullah, the light of Allah which shines upon the darkness of earth. What does that mean? That means wherever there's darkness on earth, the Imam's nur removes it. Go deeper and see. If you have a vice inside of you that you lie, that is darkness. If you cheat, that is darkness. If you hold bulls, that is darkness. If you're ignorant, that is darkness. What does the Imam therefore do? Imam is that wasila that negates each one of your vices and makes it into a virtue so that you can go to alam al-illiyin. Here, look, honestly, where do you find marifat Imam? Today, when you find on your YouTube and across internet, you find those people who are bringing a question mark to Imamat. Why are people becoming misguided? Go and look at what your Imams have written about each other. Go to the ziyarat, and your ziyarat Jami Kabira, ziyarat Aminullah, ziyarat Ali Yasin. Look at all of these ziyarat. Look at it and see. They teach you how and which way to connect to the Imam, and they teach you what the Imam is. Here in ziyarat Aminullah, I wish I had time to go through all of it. One single line I've said to you, profound line. Assalamu alayka, peace be on you. Salam be on you. Nurullah, nur of God, light of God. Fi dhulamat al-ard, that shines upon the darkness on earth. On alam al-madda. Right? Who is that Imam therefore? That Imam therefore is that nur that Allah says, Ayatul Kursi is one of the most powerful verses in the Quran. If a person knew the a'mal of Ayatul Kursi, you could do anything with it. I myself am a witness, maybe one or two of you who are in front of me are witness to the fact. If you remember a young man in London, everything had passed. So they asked, what should we recite? It was Ayatul Kursi that the father recited a number of times, I won't say the number, that revived him from what the doctor said was an end case. What is this? Power of Ayatul Kursi. In that, what happens? What does it say? Who is Allah? Min al-dhulamat ila nur. Allah takes a person from dhulamat to nur. But what is the wasila that Allah uses? Because remember, Allah is absolute. Absolute doesn't come down, He uses a medium. That medium is the nur of Ahlul Bayt. Muhammadan al-Muhammad. This is why that nur was found in Adam. And that nur was found in Nuh. And that nur was found in all of the prophets. Go and see Basair. What does it say? When that nur was on the forehead of Adam, the angels wouldn't come towards him. Out of respect, they stood behind him. Adam said to Allah, Allah, why don't the angels come forward? He says, ihtiram for the light. He says, Allah, can you help them to come forward? Allah removed the light from his hand, from here to his hand, and moved it in front of him. Angels came and aligned with him at that stage. Angels would not move after the entire instant of the sajda, and after they came to know the names. And then after Adam was complete, وَتَمَّتْ كَلِمَةُ رَبِّكَ صِدْقًا وَعَدْلًا. From that day onwards, you look at the angels, when the haqiqah came to them, they don't argue after that. They know what Ahlul Bayt is. And you come to realize that there are people who are with the Imams, but the world takes them away from the Imam. Shall I give you an example? All of these people that you find, Umar ibn Sa'd, Shimr, who are they? Effectively, and at one stage, they were with Amir al-Mu'mineen in Jamal, in Siffin and otherwise. They knew the maqam of the Imam. They knew the karamat of the Imam. They knew their mukarram, what takes them away, dunya. Look inside of yourself and see. If today you were in Karbala, honestly speaking, would you be able to give your life for Imam Hussein? Or is it the fact that on a daily basis, you actually remember Imam Hussein? Or today when Imam Hussein is saying Hal min Nasir, does that actually move your heart? If I said to you, Imam Hussein 1400 years ago said, Hal min Nasir yansurana, does that make any sense to you? You know why it doesn't make any sense to you? Because of the world. The world has rumbled your heart in such a way and built so much stains that you could be sitting in a majlis, but you're unable to connect. But you have a child who's sitting there and tears are flowing in the eyes of that child because of the tahara of the qalb of that child, because of the fact that it's not tarnished. You see, that child can reach a maqam that even an adult can't reach. And you know why that is? Because the heart is pure. So the most important thing is this: How do we purify that heart so that we can connect to the light of Allah? What does Sayyidah Zainab say in the court of Yazid? What does she say to Yazid? You will not extinguish the light of Allah. Why? Because the entire light of Allah was on the shoulders of Zainab. Why was that? Because Imam Hussein said, you're the custodian of this light. And then what happened? She protected this light to make sure Nasl Imamat continues. Today, if that light is on the forehead of the 12th Imam and within the wujud of the 12th Imam, it would not have taken place had it not been for the entrusting of this trust to Sayyidah Zainab. This is the beauty. We don't understand these women of Ahlul Bayt. Honestly, we don't. Do you know who Fatima is, alayhi salam? We don't know who she is. We don't know who she is. This is why the 6th Imam says, to have dark of Fatima is to understand Laylatul Qadr. Why Laylatul Qadr? Because Laylatul Qadr signifies not just the Qadr of Allah, but Qadr from Miqdar, approximation of all of reality. What does Zahra contain? Zahra in a wujud contains Amrullah, Mashiat of Allah. And that is something that's not easy to digest. Why? Because that Mashiach is a part of the Prophet. And the Prophet of God himself says, Fatimatu bad'atun minni. That part of her wujud. What is Fatima? Ruh of the Prophet. Ruh allati bayna jambayn. What is Ruh? Min amr Rabbi. What is Ruh? Therefore the batin of Nabuwa is Fatima. The batin of Imamat is Fatima. The batin of Wilayah is Fatima. Now let me take you to a verse of the Quran. Understand these things. Understand these things. A person comes running to the 10th Imam. The 10th Imam is in jail in Samarra. Comes to the Imam. He's in jail. Salam on the companions of the Imams, that they ask questions which are still relevant 1400 years later. Otherwise, if they asked only for that time and space, we wouldn't have what we have today. Why? Ahl Ma'rifah. Not all of the companions are Ahl Ma'rifah, but some of them are. This person comes to the Imam, he says, Mawla, in Surah Tawbah, there's a particular verse in Surah Tawbah, which talks about the fact that Allah has created these 12 months, of which 4 of them are holy. And then he continues and he says, ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ. He says, what does that mean? Imam looks up and he says, those 12 months are us. Those 12 months of guidance are us. You see, what are 12 months symbolic of? 12 months represent a cycle of guidance, life itself. If you fall short with the wilayah of any of these Imams, your year and your month is not complete. Then another hadith continues and he says, and if we're 12 months, Rasulullah is the year. You cannot get to Rasulullah until you don't get through these 12 months. It is important therefore to understand the wilayah of each one of these Imams, for you to truly understand the wilayah of the Prophet, for you to go into completion towards Allah. Now let's come to a tradition of the 6th Imam. I want you to bear this in mind. I want you to focus. Here another tradition says. That tradition is from Jabir. Who is Jabir? One of the companions of the 6th Imam, Sahib al-Sir. Now look, there's a particular tradition that I wish I could go through today, where Jabir explains what Ma'rifah is. He explains what Ma'rifah is, Ata'at of the Imam is. He also explains to the people what the Fadail of the Imam is. All 3 of these things, but look, if we go into it, the entire 1 hour is gone, because it's a deep tradition. I wish I could go into it. But let's go into another tradition. This is that Jabir, who many of the writers of hadith say was a ghali. But we take hadith from him. Because, and again this has been raised by certain individuals. You can't take from, no, ghulu has multiple, ghulu is a political statement. If you wanted to destroy somebody's credibility, you call them a ghali. There are 4 types of ghalis who exist within our hadith literature. Now again, if I had time, I'd go into it. Maybe tomorrow we'll go into it deeper as to what it is. What type of... So who do we take from? There are multiple companions of the Imams who prayed and they fasted. But remember, in those days, if anybody believed in the primacy of the Imam, you would say Ghali. According to Sheikh Saduq, all of you sitting here are Ghali. Why? Because Sheikh Saduq gave la'an to a person who recited Alin Walillah Nadam. So listen, the fact of the matter is this: don't go according to just a term. Look technically and see what type of ghulu they're talking about. Is it inhirafi? Is it aqidati, for example? And look, this isn't the place to raise this. Inshallah, if we have time, I'll go through the entire ilm rajal as to why ulama take from certain people. But all of our ulama historically have taken from Jabir, Muhammad bin Muslim, Zarara, and so forth. There's certain scholars, there's certain companions of the Imams were Sahib Asrar of the Imam. Jabir was one of them. Sahib Tayl Ard and other karamat that he was given. Anyhow, look, coming to the point. Here Jabir comes to the Imam. He says, Mawla, what is this in the Quran when Allah talks about ayyam, the days? That some days may turn and become your enemy. So be vigilant of the days. Imam looks up and says, these days are us. Be very vigilant how you treat us. Be very vigilant how you are. And this is why if you look at hadith, Friday is mansub for the 12th Imam. Saturday for the Prophet, Sunday for Amir al-Mu'mineen, and so forth. Some days have more than one Imam. Some days have less than an Imam, less than 2 Imams, 1 Imam, 2 Imams, and so forth, 3 Imams. You find the 7 days are mansub to each and every Imam. This is why when you go into books, what do you find? Ziyarah of every Imam to recite on a particular day. There's a sir behind that, there's a secret. So the Imams are days, and the Imams are months. But all of those months comes to one reality, which is the haqiqat Muhammadiyah. Now look, we're going into a deep philosophy here. And I don't really want to go too deeper, because I don't want to lose you guys. But what I will do, and if tomorrow you tell me to go deeper, I don't mind going deeper into it. But the fact is, there's a place I want to take you to. That remember, days are guidance. Months are guidance, because it's based on the moon. The moon was a guide, the sun was a guide. Stars in the sky for the people of the old were guides. Even to this day, there's some people who pan their life out for the stars, right? So in this way, these were guidances. And here the Imam is the absolute sun and the moon. This is why when you look at the Quran, what does Allah use as an example? وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا. Why does he say all of these things? Nisbah of the sun and the moon goes back to who? Amir al-Mu'mineen, Rasulullah. So look, these are those maqamat that one has to understand. And what does Jabir here say? It's a very beautiful tradition by him. He says something, he says, look, to understand the fadail of Ahlul Bayt, he asked the 6th Imam, he says, this is the way I understand it. The fadail of Ahlul Bayt comes as an ilham to your heart. And the Imam confirms this, that you can only understand the fadail if Allah puts it in your heart. There is no other way of coming to understand the fadail. And know something, ma'rif of Ahlul Bayt is a minnah upon you. If you don't do shukr to that minnah, what happens? It's taken away from you. The most important thing, therefore, is if a person is not grateful for the wilayah that they have, it will diminish. This is what Amir al-Mu'mineen says. Thank, you get a little bit, but when you thank, you get more, and you get more, and you get more. Because Allah is Raziq, and He is Jawad. But the problem is this, that there is a door that requires opening, and that door is the door of shukr. If in every hal you do shukr and mun'im, then what happens? Doors begin to open towards wilayah. This is what truly wilayah symbolizes. Otherwise, what happens? Otherwise, you find that in your life, there are obstacles and difficulties. I'll give you an example. Abdullah bin Yahya. Abdullah bin Yahya comes in. He sees that there was a chair that Amir al-Mu'mineen was sitting next to it on the floor. Yahya comes in. Abdullah bin Yahya sits on the chair. As he sits on the chair, all of a sudden he falls. Now how big is a chair? If you fall, what's the worst that's going to happen? Bruised, cracks his head open. Blood begins to flow. He goes, I've fallen from a small distance and this happened. Amir al-Mu'mineen gets up, starts bandaging his head. He says, and there are some people of my Shia who Allah removes their negativity in this world like this. Purifies them for the hereafter. Why? Even the smallest lack of adab in the maqam of the imam that you give leads to that. What is adab? This is why we bring our children to the Majlis, because we're here to teach them adab. For example, if you're in a Majlis and you're on your phone, this is bi-adabi. If, God forbid, tomorrow your car crashes, then there's a reason behind that. Phone, you can get up, you can go outside, but in the Majlis, there shouldn't be a phone. In the Majlis, you should never be sticking your legs out towards Qibla or towards the Mimbar, for our argument's sake, because we teach our children this, right? You already know this, but this is something that you need to know. Anyway, so we can pass it on to our nasl. If we can learn adab, for argument's sake here, then what happens? This is a training ground for us to learn adab outside, to take it outside, to understand the haqq of the imam. Now let's say in the Majlis, tomorrow you go to the haram of the imam. If you go inside the haram and everybody's there taking selfies, if you come to my house and you start taking selfies in my front room when I'm talking to you, what am I going to say? I'm going to say this person lacks adab. I'm not going to like it. You go to the haram of the imam. That imam who has everything that you need, he even has an upgrade to your phone. You're there standing there having a selfie, not realizing haqiqah. This is the haqiqah. Has the system, and if I dare say, has the system of Dajjal taken you so far that you've lost all tamarkuz and all ability to focus? Think about it. People are suffering in life because of the fact that they have a lack of focus. There are people who can't go throughout the day without checking their phone. Salam on the Jews who have a Sabbath, that for 25 hours they don't look at their phones. This is why they're more at peace than some of our brothers and sisters who cannot go for half an hour without looking at their phones. When a person wakes up in the morning, before even saying salam to the imam, they say salam to WhatsApp. And after saying salam to WhatsApp, then they go to Telegraph. And after Telegraph, the youth will look at Insta. And then after Insta, they come onto Facebook. And then by that time, you've wasted so much time and your mind is scattered so much that what happens? It removes you away from the essence, which is Tawheed. You see, ingenious the way that they made it. All of these apps are there to move your mind from one thing to another thing to another thing. So then what happens? It's basically cheap pleasure, intellectual pleasure. We're moving from one to another to another to another. You get bored, you quickly move on. What happens? It is 110% against spirituality completely. Be you a Buddhist, be you a Hindu, be you a Sufi, be you a Shia, be you a Sikh, Taoist, all of them teach one thing. Tamarkuz, focus upon one thing. You're unable to do that. You're scattered. What happens? Suffering takes place. By default, suffering takes place. You begin to suffer. Why do you begin to suffer? You begin to suffer for a lack of unity. This is why Allah says Tawheed. Tawheed is not just La ilaha illallah. Tawheed is La ilaha illallah in the living form. What does that mean? That every ounce of your day and every moment of your life should be reflecting Tawheed. Tawheed means what? When you focus upon one thing, focus upon it properly. Don't scatter yourself, because that only leads to destruction. Now remember that. Take it a step forward now. Where do we learn all of these things from? Haqiqah is learned from the Imam. Let me give you another story. But look, what else blocks? So I want to come back to this. What blocks you? What blocks you are a number of things. Let me give you one, so you understand. One, remember what we said a number of days ago. Ibrahim became a Khalil because of three things. One of those three things was what? That he was very open to his guests. He would look around, he was hospitable. You know where that comes from? That comes from mercy. You find today that there's a lack of mercy amongst the Shia. Forget anybody else. We lack mercy, hospitality. When a person comes to your city, in the olden days, what would they do? They'd be your guest for 3 days. You'd cook for them, food would be coming over, you'd make sure that they were okay, you'd come and visit them. Today we're so busy in our 9 to 5 that what happens? If there's a guest, you ignore them. Your parents, you leave them. What are you doing? An injustice, a disbalance. Go back to the 6th Imam and see. He says divide your day into 4 parts. If you are working the whole day and you have no time for God or your family, then that is known as jahl. You're a jahil because you're unable to balance your life. Islam teaches balance. But now come and see. What do we lose in all of this? We lose mercy. We lose compassion. Ibrahim had mercy. Ibrahim had compassion. So let me take you to a tradition. Tradition is this. Hani ibn Urwah is sick. The place is Kufa. The governor is Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. Muslim bin Aqil comes to Hani and he's taking refuge in his house. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad says, I'm going to go and I'm going to visit Hani. Why? Hani's Muqaddas. Let me see what's happening there. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad goes. As he's coming to the house of Hani, Hani's lying there. He says, Muslim, this is the mother of all evil. Let's hatch a plan. You hide behind the door. When he comes in, I'll cough, you kill him. End of story. No Karbala, no killing, no nothing. One guy's gone, nothing else will happen. Muslim says, fine. Muslim goes behind the door. He's hiding there. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad says to all of his men, stand outside. I'm going to go and visit Hani. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad walks in. Hani ibn Urwah begins to cough. And he begins to cough. And he begins to cough. And he begins to cough. Muslim bin Aqil doesn't come out. Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad senses that there's something up. He quickly says his bye-byes and he gets out. Muslim bin Aqil comes out. Hani says, Muslim, I was coughing. You weren't attacking. He says, Hani, what can I do? I remembered the hadith of the Prophet. Do not ever cause terror, terrorize people. He goes, Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad was disarmed. He came as a guest to you. It would be against the akhlaq of the Prophet for me to have attacked him. It is haram to cause terror, to be a terrorist. There is no way, if I'm following the seerah of the Prophet, then I can be a terrorist. If I follow my Prophet, the pathway of my Prophet is love. This is why, what does Imam say? When they were talking about Muawiyah, Imam emphasizes, even if the ends are lofty, there has to be just means. And I say this to all Muslims as well. Do not take the shortcut route. Why? Because your akhlaq needs to shine. Not because of the fact that, look, you could turn around and say, but look, the end goal is there in front of us. Let's just do whatever we need to do to get to the end. Today people say, maslahat. It's maslahat. Let's just do it. It's maslahat. It's not the case. Don't look at it like that. Islam doesn't teach us that. Had that been the case, Amir al-Mu'mineen, what does Malik al-Ashtar say when it comes to the Imam? Malik al-Ashtar is that person who's lofty. That Imam says Malik is a mountain, that if the bird was to go, it wouldn't be able to cross it. That's how lofty a mountain Malik is. Malik says to the Imam, he says, Mawla, you know what this guy does, Muawiyah? He buys people. Now this is not Malik advising the Imam. Malik is telling us. And Imam is replying to tell us. Malik says, Mawla, if you were just to get the gold and silver out, these guys would be falling on your feet, basically. What does the Imam say? He says, Malik, I can't do that. Why can't I do that? Because I'm here to implement the justice of God. And part of that justice, what does mercy dictate? When a young child, even if it's 6 months old, is running to grab a knife, and the mother stops that child, and that child is crying, and the mother is not allowing, and the child is thinking, how bad is my mother? It's not the fact that your mother is bad. It's the fact that your mother loves you, so she prevents you from cutting yourself. Similarly, remember this. Don't ever use illegal means to get to a good end. Always remember, the pathway is difficult, but it is the only pathway, because this sirat is the sirat of wilaya. When you start accelerating on this sirat, then you come to the level in and of itself that you have the ability to move hurdles yourself out of the way if you wanted to. Sayyid al-Shuhada, you go there, from his khak you get shifa. Now tell me, doesn't the Imam have power himself to have saved himself from Karbala? Do you think that when his children are saying Allah touch, the Imam doesn't have the ability to open up water? Do you think Abul Fadl Abbas, Bab al-Hussein doesn't have the ability to say to Farad, come to me? If Abbas wanted to, he could have brought the entire water to the tent. He didn't need to go out. Why don't they do that? Mashiach of Allah. They believe that there's something lofty in the Mashiach. They don't change it. There's very few times you find that the Imam uses miracle to change destiny. And in fact, even when he does this for us, not for himself. Let me give you a story. Understand it from this. Allah does wahi to Musa. He says, Musa, I'm going to tell you where the most abid person in the world lives. What did Musa say? Musa says, Allah, please do. Now remember, to get to a maqam, you require humility. Even as a prophet. Humble, humility. He wants to run, he wants to find out where this person is. So Allah gives him the address. He says, go to this, and this place. He goes there. When he walks in, he thinks to himself, is this the most abid person? You know what was happening? He saw Jibreel come, and Jibreel was saying, I'm going to take his eyesight away. The guy had leprosy. He was lying there paralyzed. His eyesight is going. He's unable to move. He's got marks on his body. He has pus coming out of his spots. And at that moment, his eyesight is taken away. Musa was expecting a guy with a huge musalla laid out. So Musa asks him, are you so-and-so? He says, yes. He says, brother, I'm mustajab al-da'wah. Ask me, I'll pray to Allah to give you eyesight back. You know what he replies? He said, no thank you, Musa. Alhamdulillah, shukr. I'm happy where I am. Musa thinks, what's happening here? He asks him the question. He says, oh person, what gives you so much conviction? Look at the state that you're in. Look at the eyesight is gone. What's the story here? You know what he replies? He smiles. He says, Musa, whatever hal Allah's put me in is for my benefit. Allah has given me a lot, much more than you can even quantify. He says, what do you mean? He says, from all of this village, right, Allah gave you my address, this city, this town, whatever it was, Allah gave you my address. Do you know what Allah gave you my address for? Because I'm the only muwahid in this entire area. Allah has given me the ni'mah to understand Tawheed, and this is something which is far more loftier than you can understand. If that is a man who is not ma'asum, then you can now understand why Hussein ibn Ali goes to Karbala. You can now understand, look, let me put it another way. To pray at Awwal waqt is the best thing, right? So let's say, for example, Dhuhr time comes. You pray Awwal waqt, Dhuhr. Otherwise, up to 15 minutes or so, it's still Fadila. It's like Fajr, 21 minutes. From the time of the Adhan of Fajr onwards, it's Fadila time, right? But what happens? The best time to recite is Awwal waqt. So for example, in the first 4 minutes of Dhuhr, the first 3 minutes of, let's say, 3-4, as fast as it takes you to recite a prayer. Awwal waqt, you recite the prayer. The Imam, let's say, if he recited right at the last moment, his prayer would still be accepted. But for the Imam, that's an insult to Allah. So what does the Imam do? He takes the best option. Right? Imam Hussein had an option to go to India. Imam Hussein had an option not to even fight Yazid. Imam Hussein had the option of taqiyya. He didn't do that. What did Imam Hussein do? He went and he gave his life. Because the best thing to do, his awwal waqt salah, was to do, go to Karbala. You see, Imam sometimes takes the most difficult route. Whatever route the Imam takes, Mashiach of Allah bends in that direction. But here, know something. Imam is what? Imam wants to follow the way Allah wants everything to be done. Understand that. What is Ibrahim? Ibrahim is that person who's Shaykh al-Anbiya. Why is he Shaykh al-Anbiya? Why? Shaykh meaning what? Shaykh al-Anbiya meaning he's basically the leader of all of the Anbiya. Why does he have that maqam for? Why does he have that maqam? The final thing about Ibrahim is this. Allah says, go and sacrifice your son. In the process of sacrificing, it gets to a stage where Allah says, stop. Stop. Ibrahim says, but I haven't finished. He says, no, stop. Here you've been ransomed. You're up to here. But Hussein is even further. When that Hussein comes, his eyes won't be tied. When that Hussein comes, he's not just going to sacrifice one son. Actually, he's going to sacrifice 2 sons. Hussein is something that if Ibrahim became Shaykh al-Anbiya, then Hussein's door became Bab al-Hawaj. Who's the door of Hussein? Abbas. We don't even know what Hussein is. If Abbas is like that, imagine what Hussein is like. This is why Sayyid al-Shuhada himself has said, whenever you go to Karbala, remember one thing, for as many times as you come to me, go to my Abbas as well. Imam Hussein likes it. When you go, if you go 3 times to Imam Hussein, go 3 times to Abul Fadl Abbas. But you know what? In fact, let me take a step further. Imam Hussein wants you to go to Abbas before you come to him. Why? Because he's Babul Hussein. He's the door. You've got to knock on the door. You've got to take ijazah from the door. No, can I go further? Imam Hussein is so Kareem. His heart ripped when Abbas's right arm fell. His heart ripped when his right arm fell. Hussein doesn't hold anyone's favor on his shoulder. He made Abbas Babul Hussein. Go to Abbas first, then come to me. Let Abbas train you. Let Abbas train your heart. Look, I'm telling you secrets, if only you understood. When you go to Abul Fadl Abbas, the most important thing you ask him is to train you. Train your heart to be able to humble yourself in front of Hussein. Why do you think Habib ibn Mudahir, where's he buried? Where's Habib ibn Mudahir buried? Why is he buried there? Why is his ziyarah the same? Assalamu alayka ya Abdul Salih al-Muti'u lillahi wa rasulihi wa amirul mu'minin. Why is that? Training. The purpose of all of these maqamat is that they're training you to come and understand the Mawla. If you're being trained by them, you're not going to take your phone in the haram, believe me. You're not going to be focusing on it, you'll be tunnel visioned. Do you know why you're going to be tunnel visioned? Because you know that your Mawla's there in front of you. And when you go there, people say, well, you know, we're invited. Everybody's invited. Everybody's invited, yes. But not everybody's accepted. There's a difference. Acceptance comes when the tears begin to flow from the eyes. Shall I give you an example? Now that we're on it. Time is limited, but I'm going to give you a quick example. There was a Tajir from Tehran. He went to Mashhad for the day to the ziyarah of the Ihtimam. When he went in there, he realized that he wasn't there. His mind was everywhere. And no tears were coming in his eyes. So after a while he said, look, if the tears are not coming in my eyes, it's not worth it, let me just go. The Imam hasn't truly called me. People ask, you know, so-and-so goes to ziyarah, so-and-so is like this, so-and-so goes to... Look, Imam calls you. The idea is acceptance. How do you know the acceptance? It's the tears. That's the real ibn dukhul. Is when the tears come into you, that means Mawla is saying, now come to me. Your ziyarah of Hussein can be accepted in this majlis. When the tears come into your eyes, Hussein is saying, come to me. So this man says, he says, look, I don't have any tears in my eyes. What do? It's not coming. He says, let me pack up and let me go. Maybe Hussein hasn't called, maybe Imam Raza hasn't called me. What does he do? He gets up and he walks out. Books his ticket, heads towards the airport. As he's heading towards the airport, he sees an old man. That old man has a cart. On that cart is a lot of goods there. He can't push. He comes, he says, Father, Uncle, can I help you? He says, Son, God bless you. He takes it and he begins to push. He says, why are you carrying such a heavy weight? He says, my wife has asked me to make sure that I can raise enough money for the trove of my daughter that she's getting married. He thinks about it. He says, maybe I can help this person. He says, Uncle, can I come to your house? After helping him, Uncle's thinking, I don't really want to take him to my house because my house is not in a good condition. But he says, look, he's done so much, let me take him. He says, I took him to my house. This man says, when I walked in, I could see that this house was in a really rundown situation. What does he do? He says, maybe I can help them. He takes out his checkbook. He says, take this as a hadiyah from me. The man looks at it, begins to cry. He says, this is much more than I needed. He said, no problem. keep it. He gets up and he says, now give me the ijazah to go. The man says, son, I've got nothing to offer you. I couldn't even give you a cup of tea. He says, but son, I can only say one thing. May Imam Ali ibn Musa accept you. At the moment, that stage, his heart began to shake. He says, now Mawla has accepted me, with tears in his eyes. He goes running to the Imam and he begins to cry. And there's nothing holding his tears back. Why? Know something. Even if your tears dry up ever, just remember, do something for the Shia of Ahlul Bayt, and you'll see Mawla comes to your help like there's no tomorrow. My master is there to help you, but you've got to do something to ignite the flame. When is the flame ignited? When you do something for the Shia of Ahlul Bayt. No, let me take it a step further. Even if you help any of Allah's makhluk from the 7 billion people on earth, regardless of color, race, skin, language, religion, if you do that for the sake of your Imam, look and see what the Imam does for you. What does the Imam do for this person? Takes him into his domain. Why? What did he do? Made one person happy. 8th Imam is what? What is the 8th Imam? Imam al-Rauf. You think you can go to Mashhad and you can do an action and the Imam isn't going to repay you? Believe me, the Imam will give you much more. This is my humble suggestion to you. Look, we have a number of days. Even if one child brings one thing to the Majlis of Hussein just to distribute to people around him or her, imagine how much barakah that is. There's enough barakah in sharing. If you only knew the value of a grape given, one grape, if that's all that you can afford, the value of one grape given to the Azadar of Hussein, if you only knew the value of that, you would spend everything that you have for the Zawar of Hussein, for the Azadar of Hussein. Have you not seen Ahl Iraq, why they do that? Why they rub your feet? Why they rub your legs? Why they pick the dirt from the ground? I've physically seen, you've seen, they kiss your feet. Businessman with about 100 properties in Baghdad is kissing your feet. Why is he kissing? He's saying, because you're the Zair of Hussein ibn Ali. Don't you understand the maqam of a Zair of Hussein? Khidmah of the Zawar of Hussein will benefit 7 generations of yours if only you know what the intention is. Brother, everything, brothers and sisters, everything comes down to your niyyah. You know who teaches you how to refine your niyyah? Your 4th Imam. Which dua? Abu Hamd al-Thamali. I don't have time to go into it. Inshallah, we'll discuss it tomorrow. Imam teaches a methodology to refine your niyyah, to make you aware. But we don't have time to go into it. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll go into it. Where's it found? In the dua. Everything you want is in the books of dua of the Imam. Open it up and read it. Look at it and see what's inside of it. Look, if there's anything, we need to have these classes. Quran classes where you discuss in Quran. Classes to discuss dua. Classes to discuss the ziyarah of the Imams. But anyhow, inshallah we'll discuss it further tomorrow. Look, our time has come to an end. There's a lot of material that we discussed today, which was different from yesterday. But it was important to discuss this. Tomorrow we'll revert back again to what we were discussing yesterday. Discuss it tomorrow. If you go to Najaf, then you go to Karbala, Samarra, Kadhimiya, Baqi. When you go to all of these places, right, each one of these places has a distinct spirituality. In the words of Ayatollah Bahjat, he would say, when somebody asks, he says that these are all fruits from the Baal of Fatima. Each fruit has its own ta'asir, has its own effect on you. Today you go, some brothers are going, brothers in front of me, will be going to Karbala. You'll get there on the 7th of Muharram, let's say. You'll go for Ashura, the most painful day of the entire year. When you look up, you see millions of people. Where are they going? They're going to Hussein. What do you see there? You see gold and you see silver. When you look inside, you see lighting, right? Similarly, you go to Samarra, what do you see? You see gold, dome. Why? All of these are flowers from the garden of Fatima. You go to Kadamiyah, what do you see? You see 2 more flowers which are buried there. You go from there, you go to Mashhad, Gharib Tus, Gharib al-Ghuraba, what do you see? Another flower from the garden of Fatima. You go to Baqi, the graves are demolished, but the Imams are together. You come to the grave of Rasulullah. Can I ask you a question? This garden that you talk about, where is Zahra's grave today? At least you find one person lighting a candle outside Baqi. Today, when you go to Karbala, on the day of Ashura, Shamir Ghariba comes, you find that their children lighting candles on that night. They don't want Sakina to be all alone in the dark. They light candles and they go towards Furat with small candles. If you have that much care for the 4-year-old granddaughter of Zahra, let me ask you a question. Is there a light on the grave of Zahra today? Candle maybe? Does somebody visit it? 1400 years have gone. The mother of all of the Imams today is still lonely. That's called sacrifice of a mother. She sacrificed herself so that in Qadimiyah your 2 Imams have lighting, so that in Samara there's a dome for your other Imams, so that in Najaf her husband is okay, so that in Karbala her son and his companions are okay, that Sayyidah Zainab in Sham or Egypt is okay, that Sakina's grave has somewhere to go to. Every single person Zahra saved, you go to Qum, Masuma Qum's grave is there. But then you look and you ask, where's that mother of Hussein's grave? Where's that mother of Hussein's grave? Perhaps a voice from the grave comes, can someone come and just light a small candle next to my grave? The only person who goes to that grave is that person who Zahra remembered at the most painful moment of her life. You know what happened? Inshallah, we'll discuss this on the nights which go. They say, I wouldn't narrate it, but my heart is telling me that you need to know this. Inshallah, yesterday we began some of the musibah of Hur. We'll complete it today. But remember, Hur's nisbah is to Zahra. What guided him was her ihtiram. Remember, Zahra's ishq is such that it will guide anyone from the darkest hole out. From the darkest moments of your life, when you have no one, know that the mother of Hussein is with you. She's broken-hearted, and her back is bent, and her rib is broken. If I tell you a tradition, one tradition says that her rib was broken in such a way that it was touching the back. I can't recite anymore. You know, when Khulfus came and he hit Zahra, another man was standing there, I won't mention his name. He says, Khulfus, you didn't hit her properly, let me show you how to hit her. When he hit her on the arm, it says that when he hit her on the arm, I can't recite it anymore. Salam on Imam Hassan though. 8-year-old boy comes running. He says, don't touch my mother. You know who helped his mother up? Hassan. This is why he used to cry more than Hussein. Why? He saw it happening in front of him. Look, I can't say it anymore. You won't be able to take it, I won't be able to recite. Maybe one day in Fatimiyya when we're together we'll recite, but if you think Hussein's ribs were shattered, Miras came from Zahra. If you think Sakina's earrings were ripped, Miras came from Zahra. Remember when the head of Imam Hussein was there, that 4-year-old girl says something. She says, "Father, Shimon slapped me on the face, but Father, I'm not going to cry, Father, I didn't cry. I heard my grandmother was also slapped in the face." Look, I wish I could go on. Why do I mention her? Your voices are raised. This is the way Imam wants it. Now may the blessings of the Imam come to you. May your hajat be accepted. Allah protect the hijab of your women. Allah protect your sons and your daughters. Allah protect your parents if they're alive. Allah bless your parents if they passed away. Why? Because your mothers have fed you wilaya, that's why you're crying. Hur's nisbah to Zahra is what saved him. Hussein gave something back. You heard yesterday, right? Old father. When he got to the body of his son, Hussein was sitting there. What does he say? He says, Hur, let it never be that an old father is alive and he has to go to the body of his young son. I won't say any more what happened at Asr time. But Imam Zain al-Abidin just says one thing to his aunt. He says, "Aunt, why is Karbala shaking for?" She replies and she says, "Look yourself and see, son." What does he do? "Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah." Hussein was on his knees, Ali Akbar was on his back. Now says, "Mola, I want to go into the battlefield." What do you see? You see a father whose back was broken, whose son was dead. That father begins to fight. A time comes, Hur is hit on the head. Blood begins to flow. He calls for Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein comes. Imam Hussein holds no dead. What does he do? He says, "Hur, let me give you something." What does he give? He takes a handkerchief out of his pocket. He says, "This handkerchief is my mother Zahra's." He ties it on the head of Hur. Let me say one thing. Sayyid al-Shuhada, in a couple of hours, there's an arrow that's going to go into Ali Askar's neck. You're going to need this handkerchief to tie it. Why? Because from one ear to the other. Matam Hussein.
Ya Hussein.
खुदा खैर करे, खुदा खैर करे, उस तरफ जुल्म पे आमादा ज़माने वाले, इस तरफ सारे मोहम्मद के घराने वाले, कौन किसका है तरफदार, खुदा खैर करे, करबला हो गई तैयार, खुदा खैर करे, करबला खुदा खैर करे, करबला हो गई तैयार खुदा खैर करे ये क़यामत के हैं आसार खुदा खैर करे करबला हो यार खुदा खैर करे रोज़े आशूर हवाओं से बरसता है लहू रोज़े आशूर हवाओं से बरसता है लहू लुट गई किस की ये सरकार खुदा खैर करे करबला हो यार खुदा खैर ये तो मुमकिन ही नहीं है कि झुका दे सर को ये तो मुमकिन ही नहीं है कि झुका दे सर को क्या करें साहिब किरदार खुदा भाई जाते हैं खुदा हाफिज़ व नासिर कह कर भाई जाते हैं खुदा हाफिज़ व नासिर कह कर क्या करें साहिब किरदार तैयार खुदा खैर करे वो जो घोड़े से गिरा साथ गिरे माश्को लो वो जो घोड़े से गिरा साथ गिरे माश्को लो ना अलम है ना अलमदार खुदा खैर करे तैयार खुदा खैर करे भाई जाते हैं खुदा हाफिज़ व नासिर कह कर भाई जाते हैं खुदा हाफिज़ व नासिर कह कर बहन कहती है ये हर बार खुदा खैर करे करबला हो गई यार खुदा खैर करे रोज़े आशूर हवाओं से बरसता है लहू रोज़े आशूर हवाओं से बरसता है लहू लुट गई किस की ये सरकार खुदा खैर करे हो गई तैयार खुदा खैर करे
अब्बास न लोटे अब्बास न लोटे मक्का के ज़मीन बा गई अब्बास न लोटे शह आ गए माश्क आ गए अब्बास न लोटे शान से मक्ता को सदा राथा अलमदार किस शान से मक्ता को सदा राथा अलमदार नजर खा गए अब्बास लौटे शह आ गए माश्क आ गए अब्बास न लौटे खैमों में लगी गिर तो मुँह को बुलाने खैमों में लगे गिर तो मुँह को बुलाने रुख में सकीना गई अब्बास लौटे शह आ गए आश्क आ गए अब्बास न लौटे हता हुआ कानों से लहू सूखे हुए लब हता हुआ कानों से लहू सूखे हुए नब दिखला में सकीना गई अब्बास लौटे शह आ गए माश्क आ गए अब्बास न लौटे जानिए क्यों रूह थिर गए कहती थी जैनब जानिए क्यों रूह थिर गए कहती थी जैनब रुखसार से गरे आ गए अब्बास लौटे शह आ गए माश्क आ गए अब्बास न लौटे या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Please pay attention to the ziyarat. Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Nabiyullah. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. Assalamu alayka ya Syed al-Wasiyyin. Assalamu alayki ya Fatimata az-Zahra Sayyidati Nisa'il Alameen. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء السلطان أبا الحسن علي بن موسى الرضا راضي بالقدر والقضاء السلام عليك يا مغيث الشيعة والزوار في يوم الجزاء السلام عليك يا صاحب الأسر والزمان الأمان 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 من فتنة آخر الزمان السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله تعالى مخرجك وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك ورحمة الله وبركاته صلوات